Martell Holt's now deleted Instagram posts. The audacity, the arrogance, and the insensitivity in those posts cannot be ignored. Martell claimed, "I never punched you. You continue to lie. If you need to get back on Love and Marriage Huntsville, just say that." He tried to accuse Melody of lying about the domestic violence she said she endured. He even went as far as to bring up her current life and her businesses, as if success and independence cancel out trauma. That is the exact kind of gaslighting that survivors of abuse talk about. And it's the exact thing that makes people furious with Martell Holt. And let me tell you right now, you need to keep watching, because later in this script I'll show you exactly how fans reacted, and their reactions will have you nodding in agreement. Martell also wrote, "The person who has always been the abuser is no longer on my show." Notice the wording here, calls it my show, as if Carlos King didn't develop it alongside Melody, as if Melody wasn't the one who originally had the vision of being on television, and as if the entire cast doesn't exist outside of him. That arrogance, that sense of ownership, is exactly why so many people side-eye Martell every time he speaks. And let's not ignore the fact that he was actually trying to frame Melody as the abuser. He said, "Stop supporting her business. It supports TV." Can you imagine the level of projection? The man who admitted to cheating repeatedly, the man who was caught lying time after time, the man who embarrassed his wife and children publicly, now wants to flip the script and call her the abuser. Please stay until the end, because when we bring in Melody's own words about no longer covering for him, you'll see just how manipulative this whole thing really is. This isn't the first time Martell has tried to weaponize Melody's reactions against her. Fans remember the scene at the Fletchers' house where Martell sat there bragging about his mistress, Arione Curry, satisfying him, knowing full well it would humiliate Melody. He knew it would cut her deep, and when she finally threw a glass, out of anger, Martell used that moment to paint her as the violent one. Let's be real. That's called provoking someone and then standing back to play the victim when they finally snap. Melody is a human being. She has emotions. She has limits. And if you continue to poke and prod someone with betrayal, lies, and disrespect, eventually they will react. That doesn't make them the abuser. That makes them human. Destiny Payton has also been pulled into this mess before, and fans often question where her loyalty lies. Destiny has seen up close how Martell operates, and yet she has had moments where she seemed to downplay his behavior or redirect criticism toward Melody. Viewers haven't forgotten how she acted during reunions and confrontations. Destiny herself has gone through her own struggles with marriage and divorce. But instead of standing firmly with Melody as a friend, she often seemed to sit on the fence. That's why every time drama like this comes up, fans point at Destiny and ask, "Where do you really stand?" Keep watching, because later I'll tell you how Destiny's silence and occasional siding with Martell have left fans furious all over again. And then we have the Scotts, Marcia Scott and Letitia Scott. Their marriage has also been riddled with rumors and accusations, many of which Marcia has brushed off with jokes while Letitia sits quietly or defensively by his side. The Scotts know all about embarrassment in the public eye. But instead of holding each other accountable, they've often chosen to ignore the truth. This is why so many fans compare their dynamic to Martell and Melody's. When Trish recently said she had to take a break from Ken because she was tired of embarrassment, people immediately drew parallels to what Letitia goes through with Marcia and what Melody went through with Martell. It's all connected. That's why I need you to keep watching, because the patterns repeat themselves across this entire cast. Morris Scott and Kimmy Scott are not exempt either. Morris tries to play the wise older brother, the peacemaker, but fans have seen cracks in his own marriage. Kimmy has had to deal with her own frustrations, especially when Morris wasn't stepping up the way she needed with his son and with household responsibilities. Kimmy, being strong, often chooses to smooth things over. But just like Melody, just like Trish, she too has had moments where you can see the weight of it all. These women, whether it's Melody, Kimmy, Letitia, or even Destiny, are constantly having to carry the emotional load while the men laugh, deny, and spin the narrative. And fans are tired of it. Now, let's talk about Melody's interview with Dr. Heavenly. This was such an important moment because when asked if Martell was ever physically abusive, Melody hesitated. She deflected. She said Martell and I had our moments. She avoided using the word abuse. That hesitation spoke volumes. Survivors of DV often cover for their abusers, especially when they're still mentally tied to them, or when they feel like being fully honest will bring more pain, shame, or backlash. Melody, at that time, was still processing everything. She didn't want to be seen as weak. She didn't want to be defined by victimhood, and so she downplayed it. That is classic survivor behavior. If you stay until the end, you'll see how. Melody herself has since admitted she will no longer cover for Martell, and that is powerful growth. When Melody recently posted messages telling Martell to leave her alone, stop trying to control her mind, and to stop gaslighting her, it was like a release. She said, "Ain't no more covering." That one statement is everything. For years, she covered, she deflected, she tried to manage the embarrassment quietly. Now she is done. And the fans, especially women who have been through similar situations, applauded her for that. They said finally, she's choosing herself fully. Finally, she's breaking the cycle. That's why I keep telling you, don't click off, because the fan reactions to this are some of the most emotional and powerful you'll ever hear. And speaking of fans, the reaction has been loud. People are saying Martell has officially hit rock bottom, that trying to flip the script on Melody shows just how desperate he is. Fans are disgusted that he would use Instagram posts to minimize her trauma, to call her a liar, and to ask people to boycott her businesses. They pointed out that Melody has multiple streams of income, that she's thriving without him, and that his bitterness is only hurting him. Fans also dragged Martell for calling the show his show, reminding him that it was Melody's idea in the first place. The comments are full of people saying, "We see you, Martell. We're not fooled." Meanwhile, fans continue to uplift Melody. They praise her 7th Avenue beauty brand. They praise her speaking engagements. They praise her ability to juggle motherhood with grace while dealing with Martell's antics. They call her an inspiration. They say she's proof that you can walk away from toxicity and still win. And that is exactly why Martell is so pressed. He can't stand that Melody is shining without him. He can't stand that she has peace. He can't stand that fans love her more than ever. And instead of working on himself, he lashes out on Instagram, only to delete the posts later like he always does. Carlos King has also been pulled into this conversation, whether directly or indirectly. Fans pointed out that Carlos laughed at scenes where Melody reacted out of pain, like when she threw the glass, instead of addressing the deeper issues. That's why some people accuse the show of protecting Martell while exploiting Melody's pain. Whether that's true or not, it adds another layer to why fans feel so protective of Melody now. They see her as someone who has been mocked, doubted, gaslit, and yet she continues to rise. Now, let's talk about Ariana Curry, because her name always lingers in the background. Ariana represents the years of disrespect Melody endured. The Mistress Martell refused to let go of the embarrassment Melody had to carry while still raising 4 children with dignity. Every time Martell tries to accuse Melody of being the problem, fans bring up Ariana and say, "No, Martell, you were the one who cheated. You were the one who lied. You were the one who disrespected." That's why his posts about Melody being the abuser don't land. The history is too clear. The receipts are too many. And fans are not holding back when it comes to Destiny either. Many say Destiny had the perfect chance to stand beside Melody and prove her loyalty, but instead, she wavered. Some believe she even entertained Martell's side of the story too often. That's why even now Destiny gets dragged every time she acts shocked by Martell's behavior. Fans say, "You knew who he was. You saw it firsthand. Stop pretending to be surprised." That lack of consistency has cost Destiny a lot of support. By the end of all this, one thing is clear. Melody Shari is winning. Martell Holt is spiraling. Destiny Payton is stuck in the middle. The Scotts are juggling their own drama. Ariane Curry is still the reminder of Martell's betrayal and the fans. The fans are watching closely, taking notes, and calling it. Like they see it. That's why you need to stay until the very end, because the story isn't over. The masks are coming off one by one, and the truth is louder than the lies. So don't go anywhere, because as this story unfolds, we're going to see even more receipts, more reactions, and more exposure. And when it all comes together, there will be no doubt left about who was really telling the truth, who was covering, and who was lying all along.